taken yesterday. No surprise, Cam Ward went #1 overall to the Titans. He's the first #1 overall pick that played in the FCS since the FBS and FCS split in 1979. We'll talk about him. The Giants traded up to number 25 to get Jaxson Dart. He's just the 4th quarterback the Giants picked in the first round, along with Phil Simms, Phillip Rivers, of course, who they traded for Eli Manning, and Daniel Jones. And then Shedeur Sanders. He was not drafted, but the Browns currently hold the first pick of the 2nd round. The only time a quarterback was drafted with the first pick of the 2nd round was Drew Brees to the Chargers in 2001. We're kind of on Shedeur watch, but there's a lot more to get to as we welcome you to NFL Live. Adam Schefter, Marcus Spears, Mina Kimes, Ryan Clark, Dan Orlovsky, Field Yates, and Peter Schrager join us throughout. Dan's been really cold. He took off his other jacket.
Why am I the only?
He's wearing it as a blanket right now.
Nose runner.
Doing okay, bud?
It's not that bad.
All right, y'all.
You building character down there.
I reserve the right to be cold later, though.
I'm putting this jacket on next segment.
Adam, what can you tell us about Shedeur tonight and potential landing spots that we could expect?
Well, first of all, when we look at the teams that would consider him, I think the Giants obviously preferred Jaxson Dart. I think the Browns preferred Jaxson Dart. I think the Saints absolutely preferred Jaxson Dart. Tyler Shuck is going to figure in there tonight, and I won't be surprised if Tyler Shuck goes ahead of Shedeur Sanders tonight. Can you imagine if Jaxson Dart and Tyler Shuck both wind up being drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders? I think there are not a lot of teams that love the idea of drafting Shedeur, and I think now we're at the point where unless he goes in the 3rd round, number 83, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who had a discussion about him on the board at number 21, I think we make it a team that we never connected to him. And I don't know what team that is, but I'll give you some examples right now. And again, I'm just hypothesizing. A team that has him high on their board that never thought he would be available in round 2, the Seattle Seahawks, the Arizona Cardinals, and, hold on to your head, the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not telling you any of these teams are going to take him. What I am saying is that
He's holding his head.
It will not surprise me if all of a sudden the team that takes him tonight is a team that we just didn't even connect to him and had him high enough on the board that when he was available at their spot, they couldn't pass him up.
Sorry to call an audible. Can I throw out a team? What about the Jets?
The Jets.
That makes sense. You could justify the
Jets.
Jets. Yeah, you could justify the Jets.
We're going to leave this here. This is a massive teaser for what's coming on later in the show. We're going to talk a lot about Shedeur, potential landing spots, and also remind you what he does really well. We've got some tape on that. Here's a look at the blockbuster trade, though, on Thursday night. The Jaguars trading up to number 2 to get the two-way star Travis Hunter. They gave the Browns the 5th overall pick, which Cleveland used on defensive tackle Mason Graham, the number 36 overall pick, a 4th rounder this year, and a 2026 first rounder. Molly McGrath caught up with Hunter after he was picked. Listen to this.
Travis, Jacksonville traded up to get you. What's your reaction to how all of that unfolded?
I mean, they ain't talking to me since the combine, so I'm super excited to be able to go back home and be able to play for an organization that thought I was worthy of trading up and getting.
Adam, how did all this come together?
This was a trade that had been in the works for 2 weeks. This was a trade that essentially was agreed to, in principle, days in advance. This was a trade that I think both teams felt would help one another. The Jacksonville Jaguars felt they were getting the best player in this draft. And I don't think the Cleveland Browns loved the idea of trading away the ability to go pick Travis Hunter. But they also recognized that the haul of draft picks that they were going to be getting back in return put them in position to get Mason Graham in this draft, have a second round pick in this draft, and have Jacksonville's first-round draft pick next season.
Marcus, what did you think, though, about the Browns trading out of the opportunity to get an Abdul Carter or a Travis Hunter?
Look, man, we won't know this until we see Mason Graham, and if he becomes a really good defensive tackle. Y'all know how I feel about interior guys in this league, how important they are. And also, what does that first-round pick in 2026 materialize to be for them, right? And then you think about, because the thing that was hard for me was you drop 3 spots to not take a guy that can be a 10 to 12 sack guy this year. Like I would almost bet my house that Abdul Carter will be an impact player and be a nuisance getting after quarterbacks this year. And a lot of people are going to look at that and remember that trade from Cleveland. And if Mason Graham not playing at a high level, they're going to say, well, we could have had this guy at number 2. Now, I get it. I get what you got in compensation. I get what the future may hold for you. But this particular year, I hope Mason Graham has a level of production to help people realize that this was the best decision that Cleveland made, because Abdul Carter is going to have an elite level of production.
Yeah, I think number one, I'm thankful that Jacksonville had the courage to take Travis and play him on both sides of the football. I think the NFL should be very thankful of that. Brown-centric, I just don't know if you got enough. I know a lot of people believe that the Jags gave up a ton. I don't know if the Browns got enough.
On the point system, the Browns got 2,000 more points than the Jaguars should have given up.
But we're also talking about a player that I don't know if we've seen ever before in the NFL.
Well, that you can debate.
So like, that's
the conversation is it enough for the player? Is it enough for the person you were giving up, or you were giving up the opportunity
more than just the slot?
More than just the slot of 2.
Yeah, and I do appreciate for the Browns' perspective, we do have to see what happens with 33 and 36 tonight, because that will matter. They got stars at basically every level of their defense now. So Mason Graham, Marcus, you were talking about it last night, in relation to Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett gets double-teamed more than anybody in the NFL. Yep. So now, is there somebody going to benefit that? Because if you look at the roster defensively, and if Mason Graham is worthy of that top pick, you're going, and Jock's got to stay healthy. We all know the secondary is sensational, but that's a really good defense right there now, again, with the picks that might come in the second round. And then it makes me think, are they just punting on quarterback this year and going, we have 2 first-rounders next year, and we're going to take the quarterback of our future next year and not this year?
I'm not going to take long, but how would you feel if you would have saw Abdul Carter over there, his name on that front 4?
Yeah, but
I get it. I'm just throwing that out there.
It's a better quarterback class next year, too, by all points. But, Mina, okay, so we know that the Jags have said, at least to Hunter, that they're going to play him both ways. I don't know that it's totally even, right? So which way would you play him more, wide receiver or DB?
We didn't watch the draft together, but if we had, we would have, Ryan and I, for those who aren't seeing, we would have jumped and high-fived when the Jags got Travis Hunter, because this is exactly the kind of team we wanted to get him. We'll talk about this. I think, ideally, he's a cornerback first who mixes in wide receiver. It's ideal for Jacksonville. This was arguably the worst pass defense in the NFL last year. They desperately need cornerback help opposite Tyson Campbell. You play him there, and then imagine him, few plays a game, decent-sized package, frankly, with Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, that's incredible. I just hope they don't do the flip where they focus on wide receiver personally, because I think it is going to be easier for him to play cornerback with some wide receiver than the reverse.
I don't know if it's like the public conversation that's making these teams say they want him to play wide receiver. And I get it. Scoring points are important, but when we see dudes that not only take points off of the board, but that can score points defensively, set up the offense defensively, those dudes become Hall of Famers. And Travis Hunter can do that. And he can do that part immediately. And I don't know how hard it is to play offense. I didn't play offense, but I would think that if he had some packages on the offensive side of the football, he can be a primary defensive player and then go on that side of the football and make some plays without having the pressure of being the guy. Cleveland was going to waste him. I'm telling you, Cleveland was already finna mess it up. Not about to, finna mess it up. This team has the ability to do that because they need him to do that.
And to go back to the actual trade and how much they gave up for him, I don't think that's going to be worth it unless you do get play from him on both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
This is the way you maximize him on both sides.
But also, a couple of days ago, I sat up here and said, if I'm Cleveland, I would take Abdul Carter if I plan on playing him at wide receiver.
The Jaguars are onboarding him as a wide receiver, and they'll play him some at defensive back.
Okay, interesting.
I must be stupid.
Well,
I would not do it in a million years.
It could also develop. I mean, Travis Hunter himself said that they put him on the phone with both coordinators. So
it sounds good.
On that either way. So that's what happened at 2, you guys. Let's go to 3, and that's where the Giants made their pick.